Welcome back, everyone, to the 21st Century Man podcast.
It's great to be here.
Today, we're diving into Chapter 3, and this one's titled, What Women Need to Know About Men's Health.
Really important stuff.
Definitely. It is presented by the Men's Health Network and healthymen.org. And what's so interesting about this chapter is that it's really aimed at giving women the tools and the knowledge to help the men in their lives stay healthy.
It is. And, it starts off with a really powerful statement from Armin Brott, who says over half of premature deaths in men are preventable.
Wow.
But, and this is a big but, he goes on to say, you can't prevent a problem if you don't know it exists.
Right, exactly.
So that's really what this chapter is about. It's about helping women recognize potential problems and encouraging the men in their lives to take their health seriously.
And I think it's so important because, men kind of notorious for, not wanting to go to the doctor and just kind of toughing things out.
Yeah, that strong, silent type can really backfire when it comes to health.
Exactly. So this chapter, it kind of gently points out that, sometimes a little nudge from a loved one can be the key to getting a man to actually go get checked out.
It's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need that extra push. And it's even more important when you consider that men, on average, have poorer health and shorter lifespans than women.
It's true, yeah. And the book kind of lays out some of the reasons why, like men are less likely to have health insurance.
That's a big one. And it's not just about access to care. It's also about being proactive with preventative screenings and checkups.
Right, exactly.
And then there's the fact that men often work in more dangerous jobs, the ones that are more physically demanding, maybe higher risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you add in the reluctance to seek medical help, like we talked about, plus higher rates of unhealthy behaviors like smoking or not exercising enough.
Yeah, I see where this is going.
And it paints a pretty clear picture of why this gap exists.
It does. And I think it's really insightful how the book addresses, how difficult it can be for men to talk about certain health issues, especially ones that, maybe make them feel less manly, like sexual health problems or anything that affects their physical strength.
That's such a sensitive area.
Mm-hmm.
And it prevents so many men from getting the help they need.
Absolutely.
And to really drive the point home, the book highlights this. In the 1920s, the life expectancy gap between men and women was only about a year.
Really, just a year?
Yeah. But guess what it is today?
I don't know. What is it?
Over 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of that is due to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke. These are all things that can often be prevented, or at least managed much better, with early detection and lifestyle changes.
Okay, so this chapter is basically a roadmap for women to help the men in their lives close that gap, right?
Exactly. It's about empowering them with the knowledge and understanding to make a real difference.
Okay, so let's get into some of the specifics. The chapter starts off by talking about low testosterone. What exactly is testosterone and why is it so important?
Well, testosterone is basically the most important male hormone. You can kind of think of it like the engine that drives a lot of the key functions in a man's body.
Okay.
It helps build muscle mass, keeps bones strong, fuels their sex drive, and it even plays a role in things like concentration and focus.
Huh.
And the book points out that millions of older men experience what's called testosterone deficiency.
Okay, so what happens if a man has low testosterone and doesn't get it treated?
Well, the chapter highlights some pretty significant consequences. You can see loss of muscle mass, which obviously impacts their strength and energy levels. And then there's bone loss, osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis, that's usually associated with women, isn't it?
It is. But it affects men too, and it can be really serious, leading to fragile bones and a higher risk of fractures.
So men need to be aware of that too.
Absolutely. And then there's the impact on sex drive and erectile function.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Right. It can really affect a man's quality of life in his relationships.
For sure.
And then there's the cognitive stuff, the difficulty concentrating, the brain fog. It can be hard to focus at work or even just in everyday life.
So low testosterone is definitely something to watch out for.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of erectile dysfunction, or ED as it's often called, the chapter addresses that head on.
Yeah, how does the book define it?
Basically, it defines ED as the inability to get or maintain an erection that's firm enough for sex.
Okay.
And one of the important things the chapter points out is that while it's more common as men get older, it can actually happen at any age, and most men will experience it at some point in their lives.
Really? So it's not just a sign of getting older?
Not necessarily.
Right.
It can often be a symptom of other health problems.
Like what?
Well, the chapter specifically mentions diabetes, clogged arteries, and high blood pressure.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not something to just brush off. Especially in younger men, it could be a sign of a more serious issue.
So if a guy's experiencing ED, he should definitely talk to his doctor.
Absolutely. And, the chapter also talks about how this is a really sensitive topic for a lot of men.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
They may be embarrassed to talk about it, even with their partners.
I bet.
And that can lead to a lot of unnecessary stress and strain on the relationship.
For sure. So how can women help with this?
Just being understanding and supportive,
Mm.
letting him know that it's okay to talk about it and that you're there for him. And really emphasizing that it might not be just a personal issue, but a sign of something that needs medical attention.
That's a good point. It's about reframing it as a health concern rather than a personal failing.
Exactly. Okay, so moving on, the chapter talks about prostate problems. Can
Mhm.
you give us a quick overview of what the prostate is and what kind of issues can come up?
Yeah, I've heard of the prostate, but I don't really know what it does.
Okay, so the prostate is this little gland about the size of a walnut that sits right below the bladder.
Okay.
And its main job is to make fluid that's part of semen. Now, as men get older, it's totally normal for the prostate to get a little bigger.
Uh-huh.
That's called benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH for short. And while it's not cancer, it can cause some uncomfortable symptoms.
Like what?
Well, mainly problems with peeing.
Oh.
Things like a weak stream, having to go more often, especially at night, feeling like you can't empty your bladder completely.
That doesn't sound fun.
No, it's not. And it can really disrupt a man's sleep and quality of life.
So what should women be on the lookout for?
Any changes in his bathroom habits, really,
Mm.
like if he's getting up a lot at night to pee or he seems to be struggling to go, those are signs he should definitely talk to his doctor.
Okay, good to know. So the chapter also talks about prostate cancer. What's the key message there?
The big takeaway is that prostate cancer is a serious concern for men as they get older,
Okay.
especially after age 50. And for men who are at higher risk because of family history or race, they might need to start getting screened even earlier, like in their 40s.
Okay. What are the signs of prostate cancer?
Well, early on, there might not be any symptoms. That's why those screenings are so important.
Right.
But as it progresses, you might see some of those same urinary problems we talked about with BPH. So again, any changes in those habits are a reason to get checked out.
Okay, so early detection is key.
Exactly. And the good news is that if prostate cancer is caught early, it's often very treatable.
That's good to hear. Now, the chapter also mentions testicular cancer. What do women need to know about that?
Well, testicular cancer is the most common cancer in younger men between the ages of 15 and 35.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's something to be aware of. The good news is that it's highly treatable, especially if it's caught early.
That's good.
And there's no real way to prevent it, but early detection is key. So women can play a role by encouraging the young men in their lives to do regular self-exams.
So what's the best way to do a testicular self-exam?
The book recommends doing it in the shower when the skin is warm and relaxed. Basically, you just gently roll each testicle between your thumb and fingers, feeling for any lumps or bumps or any changes in size or shape.
Okay.
And if you notice anything unusual, they need to see a doctor right away.
Got it. So with all of these potential health concerns, what does the chapter say about prevention?
Well, it really emphasizes the importance of a healthy lifestyle.
Okay, so like what?
Eating a healthy diet, lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean protein, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then getting regular exercise, at least 30 minutes most days of the week.
Okay.
And of course, not smoking. That's a huge one.
Right.
And the chapter really drives home the point that these simple steps can significantly reduce the risk of those big four killers: heart disease, cancer, stroke, and diabetes.
So prevention is really powerful.
It is. And in addition to those lifestyle changes, the chapter also stresses the importance of regular checkups and screenings.
Right. So what kind of screenings are we talking about?
Well, it depends on the man's age and risk factors.
Right.
But the chapter provides a pretty detailed breakdown of what's recommended at each stage of life.
Okay, so let's go through those. What about for men in their 20s? What do they need to be doing?
Okay, so for men in their 20s, the big things are monthly testicular self-exams, getting their blood pressure checked at least once a year,
Okay.
having a complete physical every 3 years, and also getting screened for various cancers every 3 years. That includes thyroid, testicular, lymph nodes, mouth, and skin cancer.
Wow. Okay, a lot to keep track of.
It is. And then they also need a cholesterol test every 3 years.
Okay. What about men in their 30s and 40s?
For men in their 30s and 40s, all of those recommendations still hold true.
Okay.
but they should bump up their physical exams to every 2 years.
Okay.
And then starting in their 40s, they need to add in some additional screenings,
Like what?
like a baseline PSA test and a digital rectal exam.
What's a PSA test?
That's a blood test that checks for prostate-specific antigen, which can be a sign of prostate problems.
Okay.
And the digital rectal exam, well, that's a physical exam of the prostate.
Okay, I get it.
And depending on their risk factors, they might need those tests more often than once a year.
Right.
And then they also need annual cancer screenings and a stool test for colon and rectal cancer.
Okay, so things get a little more intense in their 40s.
Yeah, a bit. And then once they hit 50, it ramps up even more.
Okay, what happens at 50?
Well, all those other screenings still apply, but they also need to start getting screened for colon cancer more regularly.
Okay.
So that usually means a sigmoidoscopy or colonoscopy every 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. But, all of these recommendations come from reputable organizations like the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, and the Men's Health Network. So they're based on the latest research and best practices.
Okay, that's reassuring. So what if a man doesn't have a regular doctor, or what if he's worried about the cost of all these screenings?
Well, the chapter has some good advice for that, too.
Oh, good.
It suggests looking into health fairs, which often offer free or low-cost screenings.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And there are also free or low-cost clinics in many areas.
Right.
And it also encourages people to research health coverage options. There might be programs available through their employer or through the government or even through their church or other organizations they belong to.
Okay, that's good to know.
And the book specifically mentions the website menshealthnetwork.org as a good resource for finding information and support.
Great. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. So the chapter also talks about self-exams, and it makes a really interesting point about how partners can help with those.
Yeah, it kind of challenges the idea that self-exams have to be a solo activity.
Okay.
It suggests that partners can play a supportive role, just like men can help women with breast self-exams.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so for men, partners can help with the testicular self-exams, making sure they're doing them regularly and correctly. And it also highlights the importance of checking a man's back for skin cancer,
Why the back?
because men often get skin cancer on their backs, where it's hard for them to see. So having a partner check their back regularly is really important for early detection.
That makes sense. Now, the chapter also talks about recognizing symptoms, and it uses this really interesting analogy about warning lights on a car's dashboard.
Yeah, it says that when a warning light comes on in their car, most men will take it to a mechanic right away.
Right.
But when it comes to their own health, they often ignore the warning signs.
That's so true. Why do we do that?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's denial, maybe it's just that tough guy mentality. But whatever the reason, it can be really harmful.
Yeah, it can.
So the chapter really encourages women to be aware of those warning signs and to encourage the men in their lives to get checked out if they notice anything unusual.
Okay, so what are some of the warning signs we should be looking out for?
Well, the list is pretty long. It includes things like persistent backaches, any changes in the color of their urine or stool, any noticeable changes in warts or moles, any unusual lumps, recurrent chest pains, headaches that won't go away, bleeding that doesn't stop, a nagging cough, unexplained weight loss, extreme fatigue, basically anything that seems out of the ordinary or doesn't get better on its own.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And it also specifically mentions changes in bowel or bladder habits, like if they're having trouble peeing or if they're going more often, especially at night,
Right.
and blood in the urine is a big red flag. That could be a sign of kidney problems.
Okay, so any changes like that, we should be concerned.
Absolutely. And then it also talks about mental health, specifically depression in men.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
It is. And, it highlights the fact that while women may attempt suicide more often, men are actually much more likely to succeed.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really sad. And a lot of times it's because men don't seek help for depression or they don't recognize the symptoms.
So what are some of the signs of depression in men?
Well, it can vary, but some common ones are anxiety, trouble sleeping, feelings of sadness or hopelessness, engaging in risky behaviors, anger, being really irritable, withdrawing from friends and family, losing interest in things they used to enjoy.
Okay, so it's important to be aware of those changes in behavior.
Absolutely. And then the chapter also talks about some health issues that we usually associate with women, but that could affect men too,
Like what?
like osteoporosis
Oh, right. We talked about that.
and also breast cancer.
Wait, men can get breast cancer.
They can. It's rare, but it does happen.
Hmm.
And the symptoms can be similar to what women experience, like a lump in the breast or nipple discharge.
Okay, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's important to be aware of that. And then finally, the chapter circles back to erectile dysfunction, really emphasizing how it can be a warning sign of other health problems.
Right, we talked about that earlier.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
often linked to underlying conditions like diabetes, heart disease, or high blood pressure.
So the bottom line is, if you notice any of these symptoms in a man you care about, don't wait. Get them to a doctor right away.
That's the biggest takeaway from this chapter. Early detection is key for so many of these conditions. And sometimes a little nudge from a loved one is all it takes to get them to seek medical help.
That's so true. Well, this chapter is full of really important information. I'm glad we got to dive into it.
Me too. It's
Yeah,
really empowering for women to have this knowledge.
absolutely. And we highly recommend that everyone check out the book, The 21st Century Man. It's a great resource for anyone who wants to learn more about men's health.
It is, and it's written in a really accessible way, so it's easy to understand even if you don't have a medical background.
Well, that concludes our deep dive into Chapter 3.
We hope you found it informative.
We'll be back next time with Chapter 4, Building a Relationship with Your Doctor.
See you then. Until next time, take care of yourselves and the men in your lives.
Good advice.